My name is Luke Pepper, and I have a disease called cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis, at its core, is a genetic lung disease. With that, there's also other issues that come up with the genetic lung disease, which include, things like liver disease, things like CF-related diabetes. There could be pancreatic issues, but a whole host of lateral diseases there that are also a part of cystic fibrosis. But at cystic fibrosis's core, what the problem is that your genetic makeup leads you to have cells that don't take sodium chloride across the cell membrane, right? So the pathways that open up to allow sodium chloride to pass freely between cells, like you have if you're healthy, don't exist. They're there, but they do not open with cystic fibrosis. Therefore, what that leads to is specifically in the lungs, your lungs become a petri dish. And you contract infections, bacteria can grow, much like if you're doing science tests and science experiments and you're putting the petri dish underneath the microscope. That's pretty much what CF lungs look like. There's great potential to contract some pretty nasty illnesses, which ultimately can lead to massive lung infection. And could lead to the requirement for a lung transplant or even lung failure in the worst cases. So CF is a pretty serious disease. With that being said, I was diagnosed at 1 month old, and when I was born 30 years ago, the life expectancy was only to about the mid 30s. So thankfully today, of course, I just turned 30 a couple weeks ago. So we've made great progress and great strides in the medical field related to cystic fibrosis. But ultimately, to see that progress being made is so cool. And as you guys learn a little bit about CF, you'll see that the medical advances that have been made in the space specific to CF have been truly tremendous. And I'm a firm believer that it's probably some of the biggest medical breakthroughs that our generation will ever see. But because it's such a small disease and only impacts about 30,000 Americans, you don't hear about it as much. So a little bit about our background, or my background in particular, and my family. So I have my father's brother married my mother's sister, which means that I believe the term is double cousins. And so what that means is that genetically, my cousins are relatively close in similarity to myself. And so we also in our family have two other CF patients. And what's interesting is that even though our genetic makeups are so similar, their one has pretty substantial lung involvement, the other one's more pancreatic involvement, and my involvement with CF is actually less lung and more liver. While lung is always kind of an involvement with the disease, the majority of my main concerns are, of course, the liver disease side of cystic fibrosis. So what does that mean? So as you guys are learning about genetics, the genes that make up my CF, if you could say, are the delta F508 gene, which is the most common CF gene, and then my father carried an unknown gene, and it has been found, and it's a name that's about 30 characters long, and so it's classified as kind of this unknown gene, and what that means is that having these two parents that are carriers. If they have a child, there is a 1 in 4 chance of that child having cystic fibrosis. There is a 2 in 4 or percent chance that there's a 2 in 4 chance that the child could be a carrier of either one or the other gene, and then there's another 1 in 4 chance of you not carrying any of the genes. So I, of course, got both genes, having cystic fibrosis, and my brother actually doesn't have any of the genes, and he is a perfectly healthy, normal guy. So when he went and he started exploring having kids with his wife, that was, of course, a major concern that, if you're a carrier of CF, you want to make sure that and know the risks that are involved with potentially having a child with CF. So that's pretty much a crash course in cystic fibrosis, a crash course in my background. But I just want to take a little time to also speak on the medical advances that have taken place with CF and some of the incredible technology and advances in technology that ultimately led to really my life expectancy being blown out of the water. So about 5 years ago, it was December 2019, a medication, actually November, December 2019, a medication was released called Trikafta. And what Trikafta is it is the first medication that attacks the root issue with cystic fibrosis. So not the genetic issue, but the actual issue of sodium chloride needing to pass across the cell membrane. The work that was done by this company out of Boston called Vertex explored this need to open up those passageways and allow the sodium chloride to pass through, and they ultimately had a massive medical breakthrough. So with this medication, actually what occurred was I took this medication on Christmas Day, 2019, when they have what's called the purge, and this is kind of gross, but all of your lungs when you have CF, as you get older, tend to fill with mucus and all sorts of junk and bacteria and a whole host of issues, right? That petri dish effect. And when you take this medication, a couple days after taking it, as your body begins to adjust to and correcting the issues with your cells, your body has what we call the purge, and basically all that mucus comes up. So you're coughing and coughing and coughing, and all this mucus is coming up. And that was the last day that I felt like I had CF. While this is not a cure, it is such a substantial step forward in the advancement of medical research in this technology that it's pretty miraculous. From there, the 5 years ago, of course, then we went into the COVID lockdown and kind of all that whole thing. And when we came through that, it was pretty incredible because a lot of the CF community realized that, oh my gosh, we can go out and live normal lives. And in my life, what that meant was that at the time I was a teacher. So I have an education degree and I was teaching in Connecticut. And I looked out my classroom window and I said, you know what, I have another opportunity at life here. I'm going to go chase my dreams. And so from there, I began a company. We work in video production and marketing. And I was able to chase my dreams because of these medical advancements and because of the progress that this company has made. Today, I'm married. I'm actually exploring having a family myself and my wife. My wife and I run a couple different businesses together, and it's pretty incredible to see, I guess, the real life application of understanding genetics and the real life application of medical advancements having an impact on someone's personal life and truly allowing them to take the next steps and say, you know what, because of this, I get to go do what I've always wanted to do. And that's really the big thing when it comes to the medical advances that we've had and the growth of really the research in cystic fibrosis. Another note on cystic fibrosis that's really unique, the majority of the research is actually privately funded. So the CF Foundation, based out of Bethesda, Maryland, basically said when they established their organization that, you know what, we're just going to raise as much money as possible and manage the money as much as possible, and we're going to go out and we're going to fund the research. We're just going to go buy a cure, and which is pretty incredible that the community was able to come together and ultimately raise legitimately billions of dollars and manage billions of dollars of research that they could then pour into research. And that's another remarkable aspect, and that's like an American thing, right? Like, such an American thing to say, you know what, no, we're gonna go take this bull by the horns. We're gonna go solve this problem, and we're gonna, however we do it, we don't know how we're gonna do it, but we're gonna do it, and we're gonna come together as a community to ultimately help those impacted by the disease. So what does the future look like for cystic fibrosis with kind of all of the history that has gone on? And the future of cystic fibrosis is still to chase the research and ultimately find a cure. This medication is not a cure. It's a massive medical breakthrough, but it's not classified as a cure because if you test my genetics, I am still a cystic fibrosis patient. And that's, you know, a huge aspect of my life still to this day, whether it's all the medications I have to take, you know, being cognizant, staying active, making sure that, you know, I'm working out a couple times a week or running or whatever it might be. But understanding that you have to kind of keep pushing forward. And with cystic fibrosis, the research, while we have reached a massive climax, this is not the end of the story. The hope is that one day, CF can be cured. Most recently, there's been another medical breakthrough that basically takes what Trikafta is, which is a 3-pill therapy, down to a 1-pill-a-day therapy. Again, little bits of progress here and there, and that's what it's all about. But in real life, what this means is that my life and those with CF have a great prognosis and a great outlook. I no longer need to go into my 30s thinking, this is going to be my last decade. I can go into my 30s saying, this is going to be the start of the rest of my life here. And that's really what's awesome and what's unique. So as you guys are learning about genetics, understanding that there's real application outside of just those things, those attributes that are passed down from mother and father. It's so much more than the shape of your nose or the color of your hair or the color of your eyes. It has massive impact on life, and my family and myself and my story are living examples of that. So I thank you guys for allowing me to share a little bit of my story with you. And if you have any questions, talk to Mr. Pepper, my uncle. He can always reach out to me. I can always reach back out to you if you have any other further questions. But as you begin to explore this world of genetics, just keep this story in the back of your mind and understand that there's massive real life application for what you're learning.